the bayou night.
Hey, I'm Keith Spiro from NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune. My guest this week on Let's Talk is meteorologist Alexandra Cranford. Alexandra, what is trickier, forecasting a hurricane or forecasting when a baby is going to be hungry?
Oh, wow. I guess they both have their challenges. And yeah, I have gotten to see what both are like. So yeah.
Both have their challenges. It's a good way to put it. Tune in this week for more on meteorology and raising babies on Let's Talk.
We're local and educational. You're watching WLAE-TV, celebrating 40 years of New Orleans public television.
Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is underwritten by...
At Villere's Florist, we deliver the magic of flowers 7 days a week to the North Shore and South Shore in the New Orleans area. Whether it's for birthday parties, baby celebrations, Villere's provides colorful floral displays for all. With a store full of fresh-cut flowers, exotic tropical flowers, orchids, roses, and even fruit baskets, our goal is to make your vision a reality. Villere's Florist, proudly serving Louisiana since 1969.
Dave Miette Insurance Agency. Auto, home, flood, business, 504-556-0809. Dave Miette, INSagency.com.
CNC Drugs is a family-owned pharmacy that's been serving Southeast Louisiana for over 50 years. Whether you need help taking care of an elderly family member, a growing child, or even a pet, CNC provides patient-centered care for your entire family. CNC Drugs, large enough to serve you, small enough to know you. Locations in Mandeville and Araby.
Good evening and welcome to another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Over the next hour, we do what we always do. We'll cover all the home teams. Saints, LSU, Tulane, Pelicans are on the docket, and to break it down for us, we normally would have these guys separate, but they're joining us today. They're a team, they're a tandem. Sean Fazende and also Andre Johnson Jr. of Fox 8 Sports and the Overtime Podcast. I'll just say this right now. You love the Saints, you love keeping up what's going on with the Saints, you like getting into kind of the minutia what's going on with the Saints. Overtime Podcast is a must-watch, and we got these guys on the dais with us today. Guys, welcome to the show. Good to have you two guys together.
Yeah.
Sean, unusual for you. It's a solo, right?
And I'm usually with him solo.
Right.
It's a whole different landscape
there
here.
You go.
So I was telling Andre when we walked in, a little different setting for us, but very happy to be here. This is our first duo going to another show.
Yeah.
So this is a milestone for us as well.
Well, we're happy to have you guys, and I love the podcast as well. Before we get started, tell us a little bit about the podcast, all the great programming over at Fox 8. Take it away, guys.
Podcast, you do the program. How about that? All right, I'll do the podcast every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, wherever you get your podcast. It's a half hour. It's also on the Gulf Coast Sports and Entertainment Network, and we check the ratings a lot over there. Mm-hmm. We're starting to see the numbers creep up on that network. So thank you to everyone who has found the Gulf Coast Sports and Entertainment Network. So we do that every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, but it re-airs on the Gulf Coast Sports and Entertainment Network all throughout the week, wherever you get your podcasts. So yeah, that's the Overtime Podcast.
Yep.
And then shows, on Fox 8 and the Gulf Coast Sports and Entertainment Network, just because the Saints season is over doesn't mean that the Fox 8 season is over. We've still got the Black and Gold Review every Monday night at 10:30. We've got Fox 8 Overtime where you touch on the Saints, Pelicans, LSU, Tulane, whatever's going on in the city. That's Tuesday night. Wednesday night, Game Plan. We're all over the NFL playoffs and still taking fan questions about the Saints. Thursday, we've got the Final Bet where Garland Gillen breaks down all the sports betting. And then Sunday night, we've got the Final Play where we break down each and every local angle of our teams and what they're doing right now.
Yeah, again, I'm telling you, the program is fantastic, and the podcast is a must-watch, must-listen to. However you get your podcast, make sure you check out the Overtime Podcast. All right, guys, let's start with the Saints, 6-11. And I've asked this to again, the correspondents who've come on the program over the last few weeks, because I think it's relevant. Great run at the end of the season. is it fool's gold when you start looking at the teams that they beat? Or is this just the natural growth of this team that had so many injuries and had to start so many young players and transitioning again from Dennis Allen to Kellen Moore?
I wouldn't say it's fool's gold. I think the optimism is real. I think the excitement is real because there are very real, tangible reasons as to why. You have a young head coach who is an offensive-minded head coach who, I'm in the locker room, and I've said this before, I've seen teams that lose during the season, and I've seen how easy it is for the locker room to go awry. I never saw it despite some very challenging circumstances. So that's number one. Number two, you have a bright, innovative, deep and productive defense and defensive coordinator. So you have a bright offensive mind, a bright young defensive mind with a ton of talent on defense. But none of that, if you just had that, you'd be kind of average or whatever when it came to optimism. The number one reason for excitement is what? It's Tyler Shuck. They found the guy, the rookie quarterback Tyler Shuck, second round pick, came in. We were talking on our show, we were doing it, he was going to get this 9-game sample size. I think we were talking, if they go 3-6, maybe 4-5, then you at least go into the offseason thinking that you might have that box checked. Shuck squashed that or killed that argument by his third or fourth start. You kind of knew he was the guy right away, and I did not expect to be that convinced so quickly. And you're seeing what he does on the field, the physical talent, the way he interacts with his teammates, and now you're really starting to see the community aspect that comes very natural to him. So he's very likable, fits in well. So I think the optimism is real. I don't think it's fool's gold, and I think they're right to have it. Some will say, man, look, they killed the NFC South. They beat the NFC South. NFC South's not really a great division. What do you say about those that will say, man, Saints beat some really bad teams down the stretch?
Well, a lot of those people would also say that the Saints were a bad team down the stretch. I mean, when you look at the beginning of the season, the Saints over-under in Vegas was what, 4.5, 5.5? This isn't a team that was expected to win a lot. And then by the time they really got to the meat of their NFC South schedule, they were doing it without a lot of their offensive starters and a rookie at quarterback. So, I mean, Sean just mentioned it. We were saying, man, if Shuck could go 3-6 over his 9 starts, that would be, something to potentially be proud of.
Right.
And then he goes into these NFC South teams. And by the way, these aren't guys who were bottom feeders. He beat the Panthers twice, who wound up in the postseason. The Panthers at the time, the first time they beat the Panthers, they were coming off a win over the Green Bay Packers, who at the time were the #1 seed in the NFC. When they beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were not only the #1 team in the NFC South, they had so much to play for because they were in that back and forth battle with the Carolina Panthers. So we can look at the Bucs and we can look at the Panthers and say, oh, those weren't great teams, but at the end of the day, those teams were either even or they had a winning record, they were in the playoff picture, and they had so much more to play for than the New Orleans Saints did at the time. But Tyler Shuck stepped into those games with backups at running back, backups at receiver, backups all across the offensive line. He's the backup himself, and he handled business, and the Saints got some really meaningful wins.
Andre, stay with Tyler Shuck for a moment. Talk about his attributes, how you saw him grow over the season.
Tyler Shuck, something happened in that practice squad because a lot of the tools that we saw in training camp and OTAs and the preseason, those tools were still present, but the poise of Tyler Shuck, when you watch him play, he didn't look like a rookie. He looked so comfortable taking the deep shots. He is the best quarterback in the NFL when it comes to working the intermediate range. He had the best completion percentage in passes from 10 to 19 yards. And just the way that he elevated talent, the way that he overcame the situations around him. I remember this time last year, we were talking about Spencer Rattler, and everybody was saying, oh, well, you can't expect Spencer Rattler to go out there and win games. He's playing with practice squad players and this and that. A year later, we're watching Tyler Shuck. I mean, by the time we really got late in the season, he had Austin Estime as the starting running back, who was what, the 4th or 5th string?
Right.
He never got to play with Rashid Shaheed. He didn't get to play with Brandon Cooks. Devon Vele, who he was really starting to form something with, he goes down with an injury. He has to play games without Cesar Ruiz, without Eric McCoy, without Trevor Penning, who got traded before him as well. So you look at all of those elements that could be reasons to say, oh, well, I guess it's understandable that Shuck wouldn't win any games because he was playing with that. But no matter who you put on the field with him, he elevated that talent. He overcame the situations that were thrown at him, and he managed to win games, which is something that this team has not done in a long time.
Sean, you break film like nobody else in this market. You watched a lot of film of him when he was coming out of college. You watched again a lot of, obviously you were at every training camp practice. What did you see in terms of his maturation process?
Yeah, there were a couple of things. Well, just I was behind on him. I didn't get word that they were high on him or starting to really like him until the Senior Bowl. And I remember going to the Senior Bowl thinking Jackson Dart. I wanted to see him because at that point Jackson Dart was not a first-round projected player. So I'm playing catch-up as the draft process is going. I'm saying, man, this guy's got some real arm talent. I mean, there's some legitimate arm talent here. And he checked a lot of boxes. He got knocked for the combine throw, but what people missed was he participated in the combine. A lot of guys went there and didn't work out.
Yes.
So he understood the opportunity at hand, and he played pretty well when he was able to do that. And then you see the arm talent, and then he gets here, and the first couple practices you can tell he's kind of finding his way a little bit. But after, say, practice 8 or practice 9, he really clicked for him. And the post-snap sort of processing, which every rookie goes through in terms of the clock, that was a little slow. It got better and better as the weeks went on. It got better and better into the preseason. But that was kind of the thing that may have, lost him the job to start the season. And I've never seen a player, though, be so open about, because when he got back, that post-snap sort of, that's what you were worried about. It was gone after the first quarter of the Rams game. I don't think I've ever heard a player talk so highly of his time running the scout team and how that helped him get better. And he got better in the areas that you typically need a few games to get better at, and you just didn't see the highs and the lows that you saw from any rookie quarterback. You saw it with Shador. You saw it with Jackson Dart. You saw it with Cam Ward in the game. He played really well against the Saints. So arm talent-wise, I thought it was great. The ability to process quickly post-snap and to avoid the swings and emotion. And then look, there's a clutch factor. There's a level of elevation where it doesn't matter who you put around him. His play is going to lift those guys up, and that's why you feel so good about that position right now.
Let's talk about building around him, because that's the next step for this organization. We were talking about before we came on today, Saints have a lot of coaches that are involved in the Senior Bowl and the East-West Shrine game. I love that because, again, you're getting hands-on with these players, get to see them in meetings, you're with them throughout the day as well. What do the Saints have to do to build around this offense, to make this offense, work and click with Tyler Shuck? Not just in the draft, but in free agency as well.
Playmaker, playmaker, playmaker. I said that word 3 times because you probably could use 3 more playmakers on this roster. Then pick a position. It could be running back, it could be tight end, it could be wide receiver. They need some more juice on this offense. They need some big-time playmakers on this offense. You also need an interior offensive lineman, probably 1, if not 2, depending on how you view the Raiders and Cesar Ruiz situation. But when you watch that team play and you watch some of their deficiencies, you can pencil in a wide receiver. They need probably 2 running backs. They could use a tight end too that can help you with your 12 personnel grouping. So to me, it's playmaker, playmaker, playmaker. But we all know you need the trenches as well. And this year is no different. They need interior offensive linemen that I think you probably need to address free agency and then maybe 2nd, 3rd, 4th round of the draft.
Andre, that's a question for you. How do they go about this? Free agency comes before the draft. Or are they going with the interior of the offensive line in free agency? Or are they putting up big money for a receiver? Considering, look, they got Olave that's on a $15 million 1-year deal. They have to extend him. They're not letting him play on $15 million. How do they go about building around him free agency and draft?
Well, it starts with the free agency, like you said, and there are a lot of good players out there that are going to be free agents. Whether you want to spend top dollar on a guy like George Pickens, who could step into that room and be a wide receiver day one. But even if you don't want to spend top dollar, there's a lot of other guys. There's a Travis Etienne out of Jacksonville. There's a Kenneth Walker III out of Seattle. Jawan Jennings is a big, strong receiver in San Francisco that I really like. You can look at a Rico Dowdle in Carolina. Just when you look around at all of the offensive weapons that are going to be free agents, you can start to chip away at some of your inefficiencies in that free agency. But that first pick of the draft, that's where you really got to make a splash. And I know the Saints are known for taking offensive linemen and addressing the trenches in the first round. I don't want to see it this year.
Okay.
I do not want to see an offensive guard or a center come off the board at number 8. You've got a couple wide receivers, Jordan Tyson, Carnell Tate, Mekhi Lemon, and you've got a running back, no pun intended, that Sean and I both love, in Jeremiah Love.
Y'all on the Love train?
Oh, absolutely.
For a long time.
Absolutely. So I'm looking at these guys and I'm like, any one of those guys can step in immediately and make an impact. So in the free agency, if you can find an interior offensive lineman, I say go for one in the free agency. Go for one of those budget receivers, Rashid Shaheed, a guy who you're very familiar with who's going to be a free agent coming out of Seattle. A Jawan Jennings, 2 guys who can step into this offense led by Tyler Shuck and immediately impact the bottom line.
How do you answer critics that say, man, Jeremiah Love at 8. 8's high for a running back?
I say he's that good. I say look at the first round running backs that are Jahmyr Gibbs, Bijan Robinson. They're all, Christian McCaffrey was a first round pick.
Exactly.
It's one thing, I know some people avoid running backs first round, but the ones that get picked generally work out. And Jeremiah Love, I went back and rewatched a little bit of his stuff before we did a podcast last week, and I fell back in love. I fell back in love. It's just like this guy has got it. He's running, catching, outside zone, inside zone, gap scheme. And he's doing it against Texas A&M, Miami, Oklahoma. Big time defenses he's making plays, and you knew that's who you had to plan for. So that's why I would be totally fine with the Jeremiah Love. I understand some being skeptical, but just look at the first round run of running backs recently and look at the success that they've had and look at what your head coach has done with an all-do-it-all running back and Saquon Barkley and Kellen Moore. And to me, tell me why that shouldn't happen.
Comparison, Love, to who would you compare him to in the NFL?
Ironically, it's a guy that Kellen Moore is very familiar with, and that's Saquon Barkley.
Okay.
When I look at the versatility in the game, when I look at the ability that Jeremiah can run strong, but he can also get a little shifty, And Saquon Barkley, someone else who was drafted in the first round. I don't really get the whole don't draft a running back in the first round thing, because when you look across the NFL, almost every elite running back was picked high. It's not like you're swinging and missing at a lot of first-round running backs. Most of the running backs that are good enough to get picked that high are among the best in the league. Bijan Robinson, Saquon Barkley, Jahmyr Gibbs, Christian McCaffrey.
Who was the last one
exactly. Even Ashton Genty, with all of the problems in Vegas, Ashton Genty had a pretty good year. First-round running backs work, so you should not shy away from picking one that high if he's that good.
And most people believe, again, if the Saints don't pick him at 8, he's not getting past Kansas City at 9.
Exactly. Not at 9. And look, you get the best years of him. Even if the shelf life is short, you got the best years of him when you got him here at a young age.
All right. The next step for the Saints is going to have to be able to figure out the cap situation, and of course, everybody wants to know what they're going to do with, again, 4 of their leaders. Taysom Hill, obviously, again, Jordan and also Davis, Demario Davis, and then of course Alvin Kamara, who's under contract. Where do you see them going there?
Well, I think at least one of the 2 big-time veterans on defense will be back, guaranteed. Probably both will be back. The question is the number, and I know there's a little bit of, because right now they're technically free agents, but they have dead money on the books, and I know there's a little bit of, it gets really kind of cap mathy, so I don't want to get too technical with it, but there's a way to do it where you actually sign them and the cap number lowers.
Yes.
In Cam Jordan's case, he said, look, they got him at half price last year. So if that's the case, and his incentives got him up to about $6 million. He signed league minimum last year, 1.2 million, whatever it is, and he earned $6 million in cap space or in money. So to me, if you want to give him a raise, I would still keep it incentive laden, but don't make him drop all the way down to league minimum. Maybe start at 6 and work your way back up, and that can help you with a little cap space. Demario Davis is coming off of a career year. He's the one for me. He defies all logic because he's still playing every single snap, making plays, career highs in tackles, mentoring everybody. I talked about the locker room. Everybody I talked to about it said Demario. It's him. He's the guy when it comes to leadership. So I think there's a chance he's back as well. The offensive side is interesting. Taysom, seeing how emotional Taysom was after that, was it the Jets game?
Yeah.
That sounded like a guy that knows the end is near.
Yes.
And he got hurt again to close out the season. You just wonder how long can you put your body through that? So we'll see if he wants to come back. But I'm leaning more towards he's probably a guy that's looking towards retirement. But if he wants to come back, I'll be very curious if they bring him back here or if he has to go look maybe in Denver or something. Alvin's the trickiest one because he's under contract. I think the base salary is like 11.2, 11.8, something like that. But he's no longer a running back one. I mean, that has been proven. And you need some more life in that running back room. So to me, this is a similar to a Cam Jordan situation. Do you offer him an extra year if he takes a pay cut? Do you take the pay cut, win it back, and earn it back in makeable incentives, a la Cam Jordan? Although his snaps are going to go down, like it did with Cam, but Cam still made the most of it. I think he can return. I just don't think he returns at the exact same contract that he's under right now.
Jordan, $18.76 million in dead money. Davis, $14.33 million in dead money. Taysom, $13.72 million in dead money. And those are all guys that they're going to have to deal with. And remember, Carr, $35.7 million in dead money they're eating this season. Same question.
First of all, I'm just glad we talk about dead money and cap. Normally at this point of the year, we're about 89 million in the red.
Like 40-something right now.
Yeah, so this is a lot less work than the Saints usually have to do when it comes to salary cap gymnastics. But, when you look at those guys, I look at who can still contribute and give me something that I need from this team. I look at a Cam Jordan, at 37 years old to lead the team in sacks, double-digit sacks. I think he can still contribute to this team. Now, the question with Cam that he's going to have to really look deep, talk to his family, look inwardly. It's obvious that the Saints should want Cam. Should Cam want to remain a Saint? Because Cam Jordan at 37 years old, the one thing he hasn't done in his career is win a Super Bowl.
Right.
He knows a coach very well in Denver that's playing in the AFC Championship game right now. Would he want to maybe go to a different team, a Denver, a Chicago, where his former head coach and defensive coordinator is? Two teams that went deep into playoffs and say, I can make a run at a Super Bowl? Or does he believe in the potential with the New Orleans Saints and try to run it back with the team that has, been his iconic place all his career? So, that's going to be something that Cam Jordan's really going to have to think about. I look at a Demario Davis. Same situation for Demario Davis. He's still got a lot in the tank. Does he want to take his chances on a Saints team that openly admitted to rebuilding, or does he want to chase a championship? I look at a Taysom Hill. I think that tank's about empty for Taysom Hill. I don't think that he has physically the tools to, contribute in the way that he's contributed in the past. And then Alvin Kamara, I think, could still help this team, but I don't think he can help this team in the role that he played last year. I mean, it's clear he had career lows in yards per carry, yards per reception, a lot of inside runs, but the Saints were one of the worst interior running teams in the league. Alvin Kamara took a step back in every way last year. Can he still help as a veteran, to maybe mentor a Jeremiah Love or a Rico Dowdle or a Travis Etienne or a Kenneth Walker, a younger running back that you need to bring into this room?
Right.
Or do you potentially move on? Because Alvin Kamara, even if he takes less touches here, he'll probably get more touches here than he would in most other spots, especially most other playoff teams. So it's a lot of decisions having to be made. I think the Saints should want, out of the four of them, you should probably want three of them back at a lower price tag, everybody but Taysom Hill. But do those guys at the advanced stage in their career, none of them have won Super Bowls, do those guys want to come back, or do they want to ring chase?
I think, again, it's in the Saints' best interest to bring three of the four back. And again, that'd be everybody but Taysom because of the cap hit and also the leadership in the locker room as well. Again, there could be a transition after next year, but I think, again, having those guys in that locker room is going to help them out. And look, we didn't, as you mentioned, the drop-off was not there for Cam Jordan and also for Demario Davis. So again, I think it's in their best interest to do that. Now let's talk about the defense. And one of the big question marks for this team is going into this offseason is Alontae Taylor and what they'll do there. And look, Hawkins be back to C.J. Gardner-Johnson, a guy that was playing the slot that wanted to be paid as a number one corner. A lot of teams in the NFL are looking at this guy and saying this is a playmaker. Now that star position, he is tailor-made for it in the Staley defense. What do they do?
I think I think they want him back. Right. I think they absolutely want him back. I think there's a real risk of losing him because that skill set is going to be coveted across the league. And I'll say this, it's a little different than C.J. Gardner-Johnson. They're two different personalities completely.
True. I agree.
And Alante's willingness to play outside, inside, sometimes down to down, I think is an asset. But I also think Alante has done a lot for this team, and he's been selfless, and he wants to get paid. He's going to want to get paid. I know Brandon Staley loves him. I think Brandon Staley highlights his attributes. I think he is this close. Alante is this close to being a great football player. He's a very good player. He's not great yet because he hasn't finished enough plays for me when it comes to interceptions in the passing game. But ultimately, I think this is a situation where the Saints are going to want him back. But if the market dictates him being the highest paid nickel in the NFL, what do you do? And then I think it's going to be a tough decision they're going to have to make. Mickey Loomis is generally a guy that sets that price point. He's willing to go a little higher, a little lower, but he stays within that. And that's generally the way they want to go. I will say this. I don't know if it's not the cap-friendliest thing to do, but if you do want to save him and negotiate time, you can slap the franchise tag on him.
$20 million, right?
Which I don't know the exact number, which that's not cap-friendly, especially when you're trying to get under. But if you really had to do it and you got desperate, you could do it like they did with Marcus Williams a couple years ago, just to save yourself some time. I don't know if it gets that far. This can go either way, but I do think the Saints want him back next year.
I mean, the Saints are a team that are coming off a season where they had a top 10 defense and a top 5 pass defense, and Alante Taylor is one of the bigger reasons that you were able to do that. So it really comes down to price point. J.C. Horn got paid $24 million a year last year. If Alante wants $20 million a year, I got to let him walk. But if you can get him for a lower price tag, if you can get him in that 12 to 16 range, then at that point, I think Alante affects a lot on this team. He's around the ball. Sean mentioned he doesn't finish plays enough, and he doesn't, but he's always around the ball, and there is something to be said for that. And, at the end of the season, I always go back and I watch a lot of the individual plays that guys made, and and we knew he could do this, but the impact that Alante has on running plays, the impact that he has, rushing the passer and getting sacks from that cornerback position, which is not something that most corners are even willing to do, let alone able to do. I think that he's so versatile, and he could affect an offense in so many ways. I would love to have him back next year. I think he works with Kool-Aid McKinstry, who took a really big year two leap. He works with a Quincy Riley, who was up and down, but a lot more ups than downs. And when you look behind those two, you don't really have, it's not like it's an incredibly deep cornerback room. And if Alante were to go somewhere, then, we talk about the biggest needs being running back, receiver, interior offensive line. You lose Alante, all of a sudden cornerback, if not at the top of that list, is near the top of that list. So if you can keep Alante without breaking the bank, you got to do it.
Bullard, Rump, two guys that were brought in. Again, they've already signed Blackman to an extension. Guys that Staley brought in to play his defense. Are those guys needed and necessary in year two of this defense?
Look at solid depth pieces. I don't know that you would. If you lost them, I don't know that it would be insurmountable to overcome. But you do like having those types of players, because those are the types of players that really bring the floor of your defense up. And because they know the coaches, and because they're high character guys, they help in the locker room as well. Veterans, been around a while, understand the scheme. But this is a business, and you got to sign who you got to sign. For instance, if I got to go a couple million more to get Alante, and that means I can't bring back Jonathan Bullard, I'm okay with that. You'd like to get everybody back, but it's just not possible in the NFL.
And, I think those guys, once again, they can contribute. You mentioned Julian Blackman. It's easy to forget because he was only here for a little bit, but when we were in training camp, everybody was talking of Julian Blackman. The way that he got here and the way that he played in training camp, the way that he was all over those scrimmages, the way that he played in the preseason. He even had a pretty good week 1 game against the Arizona Cardinals. We were ready to see Julian Blackman kind of be one of the major spots on this defense, and then he gets hurt. Jonas Sanker steps in and has a really good rookie year, but Julian Blackman is still a talented safety that fits into this team. And when you look at that safety position, I think that Reed and Sanker are going to be your starters next year, but is there anybody else in that safety room that's better than Julian Blackman? So that's a big deal to have him. You look at a Chris Rumpf Jr., I think he gets underrated a lot. We watch the games on Sunday, and then Monday I always come in and I watch the game from a field level. And there are certain times when you're watching the game and it's like, man, I didn't really notice watching the broadcast, but this guy is all over the field. And Chris Rumpf is one of those guys where it's not like he's making 11 plays a game, but he would make 2 or 3 plays a game where you're like, oh, all right, Chris Rumpf, I see you. There's something to be built upon there. And then Jonathan Bullard, like you said, if you got to lose him, you got to lose him. But he is somebody who's Staley picked because he fits in the system. And this is a Saints team that we've seen get decimated by injury. So having good depth pieces that are familiar with what you want to do, you're familiar with them, there's a lot to be said for that.
We were talking before the show, and again, this is something I really love when the Saints coaches have an opportunity to be involved in the East-West Shrine game and also the Senior Bowl. Andre, how big is this for this team?
That's really big because this is the Saints have a top 10 draft pick. So to go out there to the Senior Bowl and to not only get a chance to watch these guys in the game, to be able to coach them, to be able to pick their minds, to watch them practice, to see how they prepare, it just gives you a bit of a leg up compared to everybody else. I mean, we talked about the Senior Bowl earlier in this episode when we talked about, Jackson Dart and Tyler Shuck, being able to be the coaches that are spending time around these players, being able to see what they do. I think that's a really big deal for the Saints staff. So it's an honor for them to get that, ability. It's an honor for them to get kind of a head start on some of these guys. So I think that only benefits the
And there's
Saints.
another factor here because it's head coach Joel Thomas, OC and DC, Tolzien and is it Sermon? I forgot the DC, but they're all Saints assistant coaches. So guess what, guys? You're going to not just see them, you're going to see them operating Kellen Moore's system and Brandon Staley's system. I mean, what else could you possibly want in terms of how you fit into a certain system? Verbiage, language, calls. I'm sure it's not crazy complicated for a week in Mobile, but you get a lot of intel. Tyler Shuck told us at the end of the season that the coaches he worked with the most at Senior Bowl were the Saints coaches that were there. Because last year, had a couple coaches on the staff as well. It's not the whole team anymore like it used to be, the whole staff. It's just they pull from different coaching staffs, but this is an immense advantage for the Saints going into the offseason.
And also it's great for the coaches as well because they're getting a chance to be able to maybe, again, do something they don't do in being a coordinator, head coach in some cases, so it helps them as well. As we close, I'm going to give you guys, again, Saints #1 pick, Love's on the board, top receivers on the board, Bain is on the board. Where you going?
I'm going Jeremiah Love. I'm going Jeremiah Love because, like I said, look at the trend when it comes to these first-round running backs. Look at where your offense lacked this season. It was having a consistent running game. When you put somebody like that behind Tyler Shuck, it just makes his job so much easier. So I'm bringing in a guy like Jeremiah Love, and I want him to learn from Alvin Kamara, who I think is one of the running backs. Him and Christian McCaffrey really revolutionized this running back position in the NFL because before them it was turn around, hand the ball off, go get them. Now the way that these running backs come into the league and are able to run these routes that receivers run, AK and Christian were the best at it. I'm not going to say they started it, but they made it real popular in the modern game.
I had a final say on it a couple weeks ago. I said they're probably going to get tired of me hearing about Jeremiah Love from me. It's Jeremiah Love because I think you had a chance to draft another Saquon Barkley, another Jameer Gibbs, another Bijan Robinson. That has value in today's NFL.
Again, I go back to Jim. I go back to Jim Finks. I just do. And look, I'm telling you, I love Love. If Bain is there, man, that's hard to pass up. Considering, again, Cam Jordan on the tail end of his career, what this guy can be in terms of being a disruptive defensive player. But I am leaning toward these guys too.
All right.
They need to build this offense. The defense is almost there. They need to build the offense. We'll take a break here. We come back. LSU, Tulane, and Pelicans on tap. Andre Johnson Jr. and also Sean Fazende of Fox 8 Sports and the Overtime Podcast are our guests. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Stay tuned.
Located at 3701 Iberville Street in Mid-City is Katie's Restaurant and Bar. Open 7 days a week, Katie's offers daily specials for lunch, dinner, and Sunday brunch. Serving New Orleans cuisine such as fried shrimp platters, grilled redfish, and a fully stocked bar. And don't forget about our expanded event seating and local entertainment. Featured on the Best of Food Network's diners, drive-ins, and dives, Katie's Restaurant and Bar.
Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration has been family-owned and operated since 1989. Burkhart has energy-efficient solutions and offers brands such as Mitsubishi ductless AC units and Amana, the only manufacturer with a lifetime unit replacement warranty. Burkhart's offers maintenance bundle packages that include servicing your AC, generator, and tankless water heater. For more information on the services Burkhart's provides, visit acpromise.com. Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration, providing comfort for life.
Welcome back to Inside New Orleans Sports. Sean Fazende and also Andre Johnson Jr. of Fox 8 Sports and also the Overtime Podcast are our guests. We turn our attention to LSU, who got a lot of money to spend. The Lane train is rolling. He talked about this week at a Baton Rouge prayer breakfast that, again, might be the greatest transfer portal class in the history of college football. You may not be far off. Guys, your thoughts on the class so far?
Well, it's unbelievable the way he's come in, and I mean, this is transfer portal on steroids. I mean, this is 41 players?
Yes, 41.
It's probably going to top out $35 million, probably more than that when it's all said and done.
Yes.
That's just the money that you hear about.
I'll say 41 and counting because there's still
a couple more guys they want to get. So you're talking about a total transformation in terms of roster building that we've never seen. And people forget, Brian Kelly had the number one transfer portal class last year, but it was only 13, 14 guys?
Right.
This is an unreal approach. It's full speed ahead, all gas, no brakes. So it's not for a lack of trying. Now, all hell has to come together on the football field, but this is the equivalent of winning March in the NFL, where you win free agency. LSU has won the transfer portal.
Yeah, and not only is he being a recruiting giant for other teams' players, he's being a recruiting giant for his players. I mean, Harlem Berry out of New Orleans, the number one running back in his year, true freshman last year, to be able to keep Harlem Berry on this team, to be able to keep the video game character that is Trey'Dez Green on this team, to be able to keep Blake Baker on the staff. And then you pinpoint, what did the Tigers need to do better? They needed help offensively. So what do? You go get the best quarterback in the transfer portal in Sam Levitt. And there was a lot of drama. Sam Levitt was here. He was at a basketball game. Then all of a sudden, Damon Williams from Washington, and then Levitt's in Tennessee, and then Lane's in Tennessee. It was a little crazy at times, but at the end of the day, he gets that quarterback. He gets a slew of wide receivers. He's got edge rushers. He's working on that offensive lineman. Just everything that you could say is a weakness for LSU. Lane Kiffin wasted no time in, shoring that up. He's got a really big transfer portal team. He's going to spend a lot of money. Brian Kelly had me thinking LSU was broke. I mean, I was starting to think I was like, why don't we have the money to compete with these top teams? But Lane found it. Right. Lane's got the money. He's got the players. You know what the expectation is. He's got to go get it done.
At last count, now this has changed, I'm sure. 7 top 100 transfers, 4 top 50 receivers, 2 top 10 quarterbacks, and again, still growing. The real push for the offensive line, again, toward the end of the portal window. They're still going after Jordan Seaton. We'll see again how that plays out. Today is the last day, I think, for LSU to get these guys in for spring, because today's the last day to register for classes for the spring semester. So we'll see again how that plays out. The biggest thing is, again, because this is Tulane deals with this every single year, but because of the coaching change, you saw a lot of guys, again, vote for the transfer portal. Some may be looking for greener pastures. Maybe someone told, hey, you're not in our plans here at LSU. It is going to be now, how do you get these guys to play as a team?
Of course. I mean, that's the challenge now. And obviously, this is the first year of the Lane Kiffin show. And look, there's a little bit of, you got to sign a lot because that roster limit's going from 85 to 105, which that's a big boost. Obviously, that's 20 players that you have to sign. So yeah, I think that's ultimately going to be what makes or breaks this team. Because look, we've seen this in the NFL. You can buy a lot of free agents, but it doesn't always translate to success. But we see in the collegiate level, you can spend a lot and it doesn't lead to success. You can spend a little and you can win a national championship. You spend middle class, whatever you do. But I think the bottom line is this: when you go this hard, have this level of commitment, have this type of money tied into it, you have now eliminated any patience. You have eliminated any patience whatsoever. You are now at the doorstep of, Lane, you got to be back in the playoff year one. That's just he has got the highest set of expectations in his first year of any LSU coach that has ever worn purple and gold.
True.
Playoffs this year, because let's be honest, it's never been easier to make the playoffs now with 12 teams getting in. We'll see if it moves to 16. So good luck, but because everything he needed to be successful, he has gotten. So now you have to do your part and make success happen for LSU.
And you got to have success when you have transfer portals like this. Because again, in the past, LSU's always leaned on Louisiana guys that bleed purple and gold, have wanted to play LSU their whole lives. Now you're bringing in mercenaries, and you're hoping again those guys will stay again as a team as they go forward. Easy to do it when you're winning, hard to do it when you're not.
Oh, absolutely, and that's kind of the challenge to college football these days. Because, like you said, back in the day, and not that I'm that old, but back in the day, it was, oh man, these kids grew up in Louisiana, bleeding purple and gold, and they want to be LSU Tigers. Nowadays, it's all over the place. It's whoever has the biggest bag, of money. You look at the #1 quarterback in the 27 class playing at Dunham High School in Baton Rouge. He just dropped his top schools. LSU wasn't even among them, So back in the day, a quarterback growing up in Baton Rouge, he would love to go to LSU. Yes. But now, it really doesn't matter because of NIL and everything. But that's why you bring a head coach in like Lane Kiffin. That's why you bring a coach in that can work the portal. Because these days it's so difficult because let's say you go get all of these 5-stars. You can't play all these 5-stars year one when you're contending and trying to play for a national championship. And then the 5-star doesn't play year one, they redshirt. They've still got all of their eligibility ahead of them. What do? I mean, Husan Longstreet, the quarterback that LSU got. Example. He was a true freshman at USC, one of the highest touted quarterbacks in his class. He goes to USC. I guess he expected to play immediately. He didn't, and now he's wearing purple and gold. So it's so hard to get and keep these 5-stars, and I think that's why Lane has kind of been the king of the transfer portal. Like, okay, well, I may not get him at high school, but I'm going to get you one way or another. He was just in New Orleans today at Brother Martin talking to Easton Royal, the wide receiver. So, hey, you'll get him one way or another.
Well, and I'll say this, don't sleep on Longstreet, right? I mean, especially because when you look again at the situation right now, that there's the quarterback from Arizona, Levitt, he's not going to be involved in spring. So again, they'll have a little bit more chance to be able to maybe again wrestle that #1 quarterback spot. All right, guys, let's shift to Tulane. Little different situation there. They retained 45 to 50 of their players. They did lose a lot of their top players in the portal. It's always expected this roster is going to turn over. Again, it's unknown. Again, we've seen. I've seen a bunch of different ratings. They had them on 3 had them as the second best team in the American, but again, 24/7 Sports had them as the 11th best team in the American with 15 commits. So it's all over the place right now. What do you think about Tulane's class? What do you think about what Will Hall has done in year one?
Well, there's only a couple weeks in, so hasn't been a long a period of time. I know, they were close, very close, from what I understand, from hiring Blake Baker. Right. Then they had to obviously shift to Will Hall. There are some built-in advantages to that. For the reason you said, they were able to retain a decent amount, probably retained more this year than they did last year. And when you talk about from the final year of the John Summerall era, heading into the second season with that. So I think that's nice, that's good, but you're now replacing John Summerall, who a guy that he made such a mark on Tulane. He made, like I've said before, he made Tulane cool. He brought a swagger to Tulane that had just never been seen before. So now Will Hall has to follow that up, and it's great to retain players. It's great to grab a few players, get your recruits. You got to win football games. And look, Tulane is in a spot now to be successful. So the head coach is not going to get the whole kind of leeway that you might normally get in a situation like this. And look, his tenure at Southern Miss didn't go according to plan. He is a good offensive coordinator. Can he be a good head coach? Did a nice job retaining his roster. Is it going to be enough in the American? I guess we're going to find out.
Well, 14-30 at Southern Miss has been documented. He says he didn't have a lot of NIL money. Tulane has the collective. They have the NIL money. Again, I think the leash is going to be short on Will Hall. Maybe not with the administration, but definitely with the fan base, considering, again, what's happened with the last 2 coaches. The expectation is they'll be at the top of the American.
And that's going to be a problem for Will Hall because I think Tulane is in a very difficult position. And I say this growing up in Louisiana. I love Tulane. I root for them to win. But when I look at teams like Tulane in the NIL era, it is hard to have consistent success. Right. A team like LSU can lose 30 players, and they can bring in 35 4- and 5 stars. A team like Tulane, the current college football system is not built for teams like Tulane, for teams like James Madison to consistently be at the top. You could almost argue where they were last year, making the college football playoffs, having a chance to advance is the cap of where they could be. I mean, look at Boise State and what they did with Ashton Genty. They found a transformative player. That player goes away. You don't hear about Boise State this season. So I think with a team like Tulane, when you play well like that, what happens to your head coaches? Willie Fritz, after beating Caleb Williams, he gets a big job offer in Houston. John Sumrall, 2 great seasons at Tulane. Now he's in Gainesville coaching the Florida Gators. And all of your top players, you see your top players going here, going there. You lose Jake Retzloff, and you were lucky to find Jake Retzloff because when we were initially looking at Tulane, we were looking at TJ Finley and Caden Samonza and trying to find out which one of these guys could try to step in and, play the quarterback role and maybe give you what Michael Pratt was giving you before. But now you get saved by a Jake Retzloff, who was a quarterback at a top 10, top 20 school who needed somewhere to go. There's no Jake Retzloff coming to save you this year, probably. I mean, at this time last year, we didn't think he'd come save him either. But as far as I know, there's no Jake Retzloff coming to save you. And you've got a team in a situation that's going to continue to get picked over. And it's going to be hard for teams like that to consistently keep rising when they're the real victims of the NIL system.
I can jump in real quick on that because there's an interesting dynamic developing here. I was talking to Deuce about this. Because of the 100% unlimited transfer portal where 100% of your roster is a free agent, it has cost high school recruiting. It has cost high school recruits, low-end 4 stars, 3 stars and below, where you might get the 20th or 22nd scholarship in a class. You're not getting it. Is Tulane the benefit of that? Can Tulane benefit with those type of guys? So now those guys may have to go through a Tulane, eventually get back up to a Power 4 type program. Can Tulane take advantage of that? It's so new, but can they take advantage of those type of recruits? And also on the flip side, the other side of the transfer portal is you don't really hear about the team essentially asking players to hit the portal. They basically process them out.
Right.
Can you grab some of those guys that are processed out? Because not everybody, we think everybody just leaves and they go get the big money somewhere else. But a lot of times they're leaving and they're taking a step down, but they're still good football players. So can Tulane kind of grab a few of those guys? Because I think that's a nice, if you're coming off of an LSU and you're looking around and your offers are San Jose State or Tulane, Tulane's a nice spot to go to where I think you might be in a more advantageous spot than perhaps you realize.
2 points. First of all, Will Hall said this when he took the job, that he is going to, again, build this roster through recruiting, high school recruiting, which makes sense on what you're saying. They're going to be able to get some of the guys that, again, that may be overlooked because of the transfer portal, guys that may fall to Tulane. They might be there 1-2 years and then move on to a bigger school. The other thing is, Summerall, one of the attributes of Summerall was his ability not just to identify talent and have a vision for where those players would play on the field for him, but to quickly get a team to buy in to be a team. Okay, you saw the roster turn over multiple times, and again, he didn't blink an eye. Those teams came out. Maybe again, it took them a little while to maybe kind of get rolling here, but again, by the end of the season, they were vying for championships. That's going to be a big situation for Will Hall. And again, can he emulate that at Tulane?
And that's what it kind of has to be for these mid-major teams. It has to be almost a miracle one-year run where everything clicks, you bring it together, and you go, because it's so hard to build. You look at an Ohio State, Julian Sayin, a young quarterback, Jeremiah Smith, top-tier receiver who's been there. All the running backs that are in and around that system. You look at Alabama, who you lose Jalen Milroe, you plug in Type Simpson. You've got Ryan Williams, who was there since his freshman year. A lot of these bigger schools are able to, when you find a top young guy, you're able to keep a top young guy, a young guy that's in the conversations for these Heismans and these Maxwells and all of that. You get a young guy, even if you're able to recruit that guy out of high school that maybe fell under the radar, he has a great year at Tulane. Is he going to stay at Tulane?
Right.
That's kind of, and it's not just Tulane, it's any mid-major or any non-Power 5 or 4 school, because these Power 4 schools are offering big bags that Tulane can't compete with. So if Tulane is going to make that run, it has to be kind of what John Sumrall did. You got to bring this team together, get them playing like a team, and you got to go. Because if you build the old-fashioned way, somebody's going to step in and take your bricks.
Right, it doesn't work because again, as soon as if somebody shows they can play, the big boys are coming to get them. Or a group of 5 team will put all their money in the middle of the team and say, "This is the guy we're going after."
Yeah,
so I mean that's where you are right now when it's Tulane. We will switch now to the Pelicans, 10-36, lose to the Pistons last night, 112-104. The big question is now what happens with the trading deadline on February the 5th. There's been so many rumors out there right now. Zion to Chicago, Messi to Chicago, the possibility of again those guys being off limits. We were told that Queen, Fears, Murphy, Jones, and Zion were off limits. They're not going to be traded. You look at the flip side. We keep hearing about Ja Morant coming to New Orleans. Okay, a deal to try to maybe move off that Poole or that DeJounte Murray contract. I'll start with you, Andre. What does Joe Dumars and Weaver do based on, again, not having a first-round pick in this upcoming draft, which is probably the best draft since 2003, and having to rebuild a roster with a team that's not willing to go over the luxury tax threshold?
Yeah, Joe Dumars put himself in a rough position.
He really did.
When he traded, next year's pick away, he didn't protect it at all. I mean, that's a crazy decision in itself. And I think the solution for the Pelicans, and maybe some people don't want to hear it, it's time to blow this thing up and start over again. I think I've been on the record on this show and on many shows saying the time to trade Zion Williamson was 3 years ago, where you could have got one of those 3-4 first-round pick type deals for him. Doing the same thing over and over again and getting the same result, that's the definition of insanity. And that's what we've been doing all these years from Zion Williamson. It's time to move on from Zion. And if it takes moving Zion, moving Herb, you could even talk me into moving Messi, Trey Murphy. I'm willing to move everybody.
Are you willing to move off of Murphy, a guy that maybe you can build around and with a pretty good contract?
Depending on how much I could get for him. If I could get one of those 3 first-round pick deals for him, I would potentially move off of Trey Murphy. The only people I'm set on keeping right now, I love Derek Queen, and I want to keep Jeremiah Fears. But if I can move those other guys, if I can get something for Alvarado, if I can get somebody to take Jordan Poole off my hands, if someone still believes in DeJounte Murray and what he can do as a two-way player, I'm looking to trade as many people as I can to bring in as many picks and players as I can. I've been saying since the beginning of the year, I'd flip Zion for Lauri Markkanen and a first-round pick from Utah Jazz right now. You know, I think you need some new blood, some new life in this team, because what you've been doing and what you're doing right now, you're the worst team in the NBA record-wise. It's not working.
And look, this year's done. It's gone.
It's over.
I'm putting a for sale sign right outside the Pelicans facility. Look, we open for business. We are open for business. And ironically, you know how I feel about Zion. I've been calling for the last 2 years. This has run its course. Now he's been healthy and he's been fairly productive. What's he got to show for it? There's 10 wins. 10 wins. Until I'm not even sure he's a dominant. He's a top tier player in the NBA anymore. So good luck trying to find anything for that. But if you're Dumars, you got to turn this whole roster over. Pinpoint a couple guys. If you like Trey, that's fine. If you like Queen, Fears, that's fine. But everyone else, let's start wheeling and dealing. Let's get some draft capital back. Let's get some different players in here, because this ain't working. And now, when you turn on a Pelicans game, there is a very strong expectation of a loss, and that's just a horrible place to be. As any professional sport, you got pride. Dumars was a member of the Bad Boys. They won. I mean, they were. To me, this needs to be completely turned over, front office down, and Dumars, coaching staff down, and start fresh. And even if that means next year is another struggle, I'm trying to rebuild for the future.
And to your point, sometimes one man's trash is another man's treasure. You look at the MVP right now, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He was gotten in a trade from the Los Angeles Clippers because he was a talented young player, but they didn't know he was that, or they wouldn't have traded him. You look at the Knicks, the face of their franchise right now, Jalen Brunson. He was second fiddle to Luka Doncic. They thought he was expendable. He gets to Madison Square Garden, and all of a sudden he's an all-star game. I believe he's a starter. So when you look all around this league, Tyrese Halliburton, who brought the Pacers to the finals last year, was sitting behind De'Aaron Fox in Sacramento. If you can, in the process of these trades, go out and find somebody who maybe their team doesn't see them as their top tier guy, bring him here, all of a sudden he could be the new face of your franchise.
The question I have is, can Dumars and Weaver be trusted? based on what they've done as they've come into this organization. You're giving away again. First, you had literally had the chance at 3 lottery picks this year between the Milwaukee pick swap, the Indiana pick that was again lottery protected 1 through 4, and their own pick. You gave those picks up. Look, I love Queen, but maybe you should have took Queen at 7 instead of grabbing Fears there. Extending Hawkins when Hawkins was. Just some of the stuff is just mind blowing on what they've done. Bringing in Poole again. We love Bay, but bringing in Poole, giving up $40 million in expiring contract that again would have been off the books this year. Can you trust those guys to make the right decision?
Well, it doesn't matter if we trust him. Mrs. Benson trusts him. He's going to get the benefit of the doubt. He's going to give an opportunity.
Sometimes she has a blind spot with people she likes.
I mean, look, I understand your point, and I understand that there are some reasons to be skeptical of that, but the truth of the matter is they're going to give him an opportunity to clean this mess up, and we'll see what happens. I'm very curious, though, like this idea that certain people are off limit. Like, no, like this franchise has been going down for the last 3-4 years. Swing this thing back up. So you do whatever you have to do to get there.
So the for sale sign's up.
I said it. The for sale sign's up.
Okay. Last question for you guys. This comes from my director, William Hill. A lot of chatter out there about McMahon out at LSU. It kind of looks like it. A lot of chatter out there about Will Wade being the next head coach at LSU. Going to happen or not?
I heard whispers about that. This was in the midst of the finding Lane Kiffin coaching search, that could be a possibility given the president change and everything else. Right. I will say I believe McMahon is out. I will also say Will Wade will be their top target, but I don't think he's going to be as easy to acquire from NC State.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, McMahon hasn't been getting the job done at LSU. LSU is not viewed, well, if they're viewed as a basketball school, you're looking at Kim Mulkey and R.J. Johnson. Right. You're not looking at the men of LSU when you talk about basketball, and I think you need a big name in there. You need a guy in there that's going to garner some of these top guys, that's going to be able to work the portal and bring LSU basketball back to relevance. Will Wade, if you could somehow patch up and repair that relationship and talk him back into coming back, and maybe football share some of that NIL money, and you get some big players in for Will Wade, that would be great. I would love it. It'd be an amazing storyline with these two reunited. Do I think it's most likely to happen? No, not necessarily, but I'd love if it did.
Well, the president of the university, the Chancellor University, is Roos. Again, it was at McNeese, gave Will Wade a second chance. A lot of people believe that Woodward is out because, again, the situation with Will Wade not standing behind him, that there are major boosters out there that again have the bucks and are willing to do what it takes to get Will Wade back. The fan base wants Will Wade back. It'll be interesting to see if that ultimately happens.
Well, you talk about playing the villain. I mean, you got Lane Kiffin and Will Wade.
You forgot one.
Oh, and of course, Kim Mulkey as well. I mean, that's like, let's embrace it. I mean, that's playing the villain. So hey, whatever works.
We shall see. Guys, before we get finished, I've got a minute left for you guys. Tell the folks about your podcast and why they should be watching every single week.
Monday, Wednesday, Friday, the Fox 8 Overtime Podcast with Andre Johnson Jr. and myself, wherever you get your podcast. And you like Saints talk, we got a lot of it.
Andre?
It's really fun. A lot of times you get to the end of the season and people don't know what to talk about. We find something to talk about 3 times a week, whether it's the off season, whether it's individual players. We keep it rolling. Season, off season, doesn't matter. Sean and I are there breaking down your New Orleans Saints and why you should be watching.
How can folks watch the pod? How can they listen to the pod?
Fox 8 Overtime Podcast on YouTube. You can find it on our website, fox8live.com, and you can find it replaying all week on the Gulf Coast Sports and Entertainment Network.
This is what you get every time you tune in. You got to check it out. It's one of the best podcasts out there. All right, folks, thanks so much for tuning in. There's a QR code on your screen that would take you to my website, the WLAE-TV YouTube channel. As I say it every week, we're so blessed with so many ways to catch our program. WLAE-TV, WLAE-TV 2, Pelican Sports Network, and our YouTube channel. Set your DVR, you'll never miss the show. Catch me on the radio, 106.7 The Ticket, 4 to 6 weekdays. You can listen live at ericasher.com, also 106.7 The Ticket. We have a app, 106.7 The Ticket app. You can listen there as well. iHeartRadio app, TuneIn Radio app. A lot of ways to catch the program. I hope you're checking us out each and every day on 106.7 The Ticket. Want to thank the underwriters who make the show possible. Without those underwriters, there is no show. Please support our underwriters, and of course the folks here at WLAE-TV who produce our program every week and do a great job. Ron Yeager, Jim Dotson, Alex Jacone, and the best director on the planet, William Hill. For Andre Johnson and Sean Fazende, I'm Eric Asher. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you next week for another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports. Thanks for watching.
Hey, I'm Keith Spiro from NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune. My guest this week on Let's Talk is meteorologist Alexandra Cranford. Alexandra, what is trickier, forecasting a hurricane or forecasting when a baby is going to be hungry?
Oh, wow. I guess they both have their challenges. And yeah, I have gotten to see what both are like. So yeah.
Both have their challenges. It's a good way to put it. Tune in this week for more on meteorology and raising babies on Let's Talk.
Hello, I'm Consuelo Mack. Every week on Wealth Track, we sit down with great investors and financial thought leaders to talk in depth about strategies you need to build and protect your wealth over the long term. Join us on Consuelo Mack Wealth Track.
Mondays at 6 p.m.
Today, we bring you the first part of our global broadcast exclusive conversation.
I'm Amy Goodman.
And I'm Juan Gonzalez.
This is Democracy Now!
Weekdays at 12 on WLAE.
We're local and entertaining. You're watching WLAE-TV, celebrating 40 years of New Orleans public television.